Hello, and today I'm going to be going over why I do not think this past season of the 2022 to 2023 Denver Broncos was Russell Wilson's fault, and how I think he can very well improve with a new coaching staff and new built O-line this coming up year. If you look at the stats here, you could see that Russell Wilson did struggle this year. He had a big dip in his stats, and overall just did not perform as well. Even last year, when he played one less game, he still managed to throw more touchdowns and 5 less interceptions. Now you might be saying, well, that's his performance, so it's going to be on him. But I think the entire blame is Nathaniel Hackett's coaching and the poor offensive line Russell Wilson had this year. And I'm going to break down each of those. Going to start off with Nathaniel Hackett's coaching. Now, Nathaniel Hackett was fired 2 games before the end of the season, and in those 2 games, Russell Wilson had his best performances. The offense had their best performances in the entire season in just those 2 games. The Broncos had the worst offense in football for most of the year and ended in the bottom 3 offenses in all of football. You might be thinking, well, that's going to blame the quarterback. The coach can't do it all. But I'm going to give some prime examples that a coach is the most important part of the team, and quarterbacks who succeeded with a good coach or offensive coordinator and who failed with a different coach or offensive coordinator. Let's start off with Mac Jones' rookie year. Now, he had Josh McDaniels, who overall is not a good coach, but is a good offensive coordinator. Now, in that season, he won 10 games, 3,800 yards, 22 touchdowns to 13 interceptions. He had overall a pretty good season and almost won Rookie of the Year. Now, the next year, with arguably better weapons and overall a better team, he had Matt Patricia as his offensive coordinator. Now, this season, he won 6 games through 2,900 yards, 14 touchdowns, and 11 interceptions. Yes, he did miss 3 games, but I doubt he would have thrown 900 yards and 8 touchdowns in those 3 games. Now, here's another prime example. Tom Brady, his whole career, has had Bill Belichick, and he always succeeded. He goes to Tampa Bay and goes to Bruce Arians, who is a phenomenal head coach. The first year, he does not have a great head coach. His yards take a dip from the year prior, his touchdowns take a huge dip, and overall just is not as effective and has his worst year statistically and his worst year record-wise. Here's one more example. So if you look at Derek Carr's stats here, the year before, he threw 4,800 yards, 23 touchdowns, 14 interceptions. A pretty solid year all around. Now the year after, he did play 2 less games, but he threw 1,300 less yards with the best wide receiver in football. They added the best wide receiver in football, and he threw less yards. It is because of the coaching change. Now there's some proof that coaches and offensive coordinators make up a lot of what a quarterback can do. Now, if you look at this stat, Russell Wilson was the most sacked quarterback in football, tied with Justin Fields. His O-line was atrocious. His only good O-lineman in Garrett Bowles got hurt very early on in the year, and he basically had nothing on the O-line. Also, his wide receivers were struggling with injuries all year. Courtland Sutton was in and out. Jerry Jeudy was on the injury report 14 times this year. He did end up playing a lot of the games, but he was playing through an injury, which causes less production. If those are all the reasons why I think Russell Wilson was not to blame this last year, now I'm going to go over why I think Russell Wilson will improve a lot this year. First, I'm going to go over the O-line. They added Mike McGlinchey and Ben Powers. They cut Graham Glasgow. Overall, their line just got a lot better, and if they can draft a center in their 3rd round, then I think this O-line could look really good. And obviously, the big thing is they got Sean Payton. Now, Sean Payton has made it work with many quarterbacks. He made it work with Jameis Winston, and he won 9 games with Jameis Winston. Okay, a lot of people thought the Saints were going to be very good after Sean Payton left, because on paper, their team got better defensively, their team got better offensively. The next year, without Sean Payton, they completely failed. If you look here, Jameis Winston's starting year where he played 7 games in Sean Payton's system, he threw 1,100 yards, 14 touchdowns to 3 interceptions. Now, Jameis Winston is known for a very interception-prone quarterback, but he had a 8.7 touchdown ratio and a 1.9 interception percentage ratio. Now, the year after, he played 3 games, threw 4 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. He played 4 less games and threw 2 more interceptions. He also only had 858 yards. So obviously Sean Payton knows what to do with a quarterback. Now let's go over another quarterback that Sean Payton succeeded with, Drew Brees. Now at San Diego, Drew Brees was a solid quarterback, but nothing too special. His first year in New Orleans, which was also Sean Payton's first year, he had the most yards he's ever had, the second most touchdowns he's ever had, and overall just had a much improved season, and obviously after that became one of the greatest quarterbacks to ever live. And Sean Payton is a big part of that, and why I think Sean Payton will be a big reason that Russell Wilson will improve a lot. Now, do I think Russell Wilson will ever get back to his top 5 form? No, I do not think so. But I think Russell Wilson can get up to borderline top 10 and help the Broncos win at least 9 to 10 games. Let me know what you guys think in the comments, but these are my thoughts on the Denver Broncos this year.